There are a ton of people involved with making characters in WildStar. It starts with, concept artists who come up with these kooky ideas based off of our writers who also come up with kooky ideas on what they want to see and what kind of races.
The best way to tell stories in WildStar is actually through the voices of the characters that we've created for the game. These characters need to be both complex from a story standpoint and also, accessible and relatable, in sort of the moment-to-moment experience that the player has when he meets them in the game.
We felt like the MMO space, while there's a lot of unique characters and everything, that it was missing something. It was missing, humor, personality. We don't like to say humor because it's not always funny, but personality was something that we focused on. Once we have a broad idea and we know that we want to get that into the game, really it starts with concept art.
Who is the who are the interesting characters that you will run across? As an example, we have a character named Kesric Warbringer who is like the ultimate Draken. And he's got this story about how he, seized control and has, sort of like led the Draken, in wars for, decades, and he's the toughest one there is, and he wears like, the skull of his previous commander on his shoulders. And all of those things reflect what is interesting, right, ultimately about what it means to be a Draken.
These Drakens are very hunched over and they kind of walk around almost like dragons, and they're muscular and warlike and they're all about the hunt. And so we wanted it, when they were running, they had this lumbering kind of, looking for action sort of thing.
You have, on the other side, you have the Mordish, who are sort of our space zombie race, right? Their story is that they had been infected by this disease called the contagion. And so one of our iconic characters for the Mordish is actually the alchemist who was responsible for creating that contagion. It's this guy named Victor Lazarin. And so, he, as an individual, is very central. But, the story of Victor Lazarin is ultimately the story of the Mordish.
From the concept team, that will then go to our character artists. So our character artists, they model it, texture it, put our shaders on it, and just get that character model prepped. Then it has to go to our tech art team, and that's where it's rigged and weighted. And then the final step is we give it over to the animation team, and they create all the animations that are required for combat, for interaction with characters, for movement.
And luckily our animation team gets personality and works really hard to make sure that our stuff is hilarious, scary, brutal. You name the personality type and they can sell it.
The first thing you do in a game, any game, usually is you walk or run forward, right? And if that doesn't feel like it should, then that's going to affect your entire game experience. So we put in a lot of time in developing tech where we don't just go from, a standing animation to a running animation. There's probably like 4 or 5 different steps in between that that the code has to support, so it feels good, right? Your character doesn't just stop on a dime, he moves forward a little bit, and because we're a stylized game, we add a lot of squash and stretch and secondary movement into our animations, so it feels very fluid and responsive.
Right, a Chua Flex is the funniest thing I think we have in the game when it comes to animations, because they do this and then they look at their muscles like, huh? Like they have this personality and look to that comes off really funny, but the Granok are like, just kissing the biceps and like, I got this. It's a totally different personality, and you don't even have to have voiceover to kind of sell what their deal is. I hope the players take away the idea that this is their game. We're making a game and they're taking a lot of different stuff in it and they're turning it into their own game. I hope that people play our characters and laugh and think this is a badass that I love to play.